Hey there guys, and welcome to another episode of Evenant Design. Before getting started, I thought I'd just say that I've been crazy busy lately, so I haven't been able to upload much videos as much as I want to. But I'm trying to upload as much as I can, free stuff. But it's kind of hard sometimes, because I have to pay rent and all that stuff. But yeah, I've been busy with freelance work and with my company and all that stuff. So, anyways. Today I thought we'd check out the custom shapes in Photoshop. You know, how we can create our own custom shapes and how we can use them to paint. It's a pretty cool technique to use because you can bait out a lot of cool happy accidents and you can use them for thumbnailing, environments and characters and props and all kinds of stuff. So it's a pretty cool technique and I think you're gonna like it. In the end of this video, there's gonna be a painting process of me creating a painting from beginning to the end, and I'm gonna use a lot of custom shapes in that, so stay tuned for that as well. Alright then guys, so we're inside of Photoshop CC 2017, and let's take a look at what custom shapes are. So we can see down here, we have this icon here, this funky little thing, and it says custom shape right there, and I've set it to S. If I click that and I right click right here, you can see that I have a bunch of different shapes here. Photoshop comes with a few different ones. You can see them right here, but these are my own basically, and a few of them I've actually taken from the internet, and some I've created myself, like this horse here. I created myself. And if I choose a black color right here, and up here I have it set to pixels, create a new layer, and I just drag it out. You see, I just painted a horse. It's kind of like brushes, but this actually works with vectors. Like if I press path here instead, and I do the same thing, it'll create a path instead that I have here, a work path. But I don't want that. It's better with pixels because then you can paint a bunch of horses like this on the same layer. So you can do a bunch of things with shapes. Like I have a lot of them here. Like a few of these I've taken photos and I've created these custom shapes using photos. And what's cool about the shapes is that you can just you can really stretch them out and like up and down, and you can start painting just like this. I'm already beginning to create a landscape just using one custom shape from a photo that I did. And then I have a few different ones here. I can see a bunch of like these I just did recently. A bunch of diagonal. Yeah, and I can basically just start painting around with all these custom shapes. You can do even some thumbnail stuff. Like if I just zoom out here and do the same thing. I can decrease this here so it doesn't look too bright, and then I just pick maybe this one. Just try to do some thumbnail stuff. Like you see, I'm already having some sort of cool landscape right here. And then I can just switch to brushes. I press B and I can go back to brushes and start painting. And you see, like already I have a landscape. It's pretty cool how much you can do with this. And you can also use it with creating thumbnails for like spaceships and stuff. And there's one pack that I got for free, and it's from a guy called Long Pham. You can check it out. I'm gonna post that in the description. And he's created these pretty cool like sci-fi or just mechanical stuff. So I can just like start doing a spaceship or something using these different sci-fi looking custom shapes. like there. I just did a pretty cool looking spaceship. And then I can actually, if I press this button here, lock transparent pixels, I can start using other shapes, like this, and then I can use a little bit brighter value here and start adding in like cool textures. No, actually that was too much like that, maybe. Maybe even brighter. So you see, now I have a pretty interesting looking spaceship here, and I can continue with my brushes. Start, you know, painting in. The spaceship. Yeah, okay, I'm not gonna do that right now, but yeah, you can see how powerful this this technique is. So the same thing goes for landscapes and all kinds of stuff, and weapons too. Like if I do the same thing again, I can do a weapon. Let's use a darker one. Now they all look like spaceships. Let's try to do a weapon. Okay, this looks like a pretty cool spaceship as well. Like that. This could be a weapon for sure. And then I do the same thing. Like this could be a weapon for sure. I should stop saying for sure. Yeah, so that's a pretty cool technique that you can take with you. So let's take a look at how we can actually create these. So the thing about custom shapes is that you can't have any value dynamics, like brushes, for example. If I just pick a brush here, you can see that there's some value dynamics right here, where some things are more like the opacity is lower at some places. With custom shapes, you actually have 100% opacity and nothing. So if I just check this out, for example, you see here, there's no place where there's a little bit of opacity. It's just 100% like this or nothing like that. And if we just start to like paint something here, let's take like this one. I'm not sure if I updated the brush back yet with this one, but it's basically the same as this, just that I took away the transfer from for the opacity, so it's always painting 100%. And let's like start making some, I don't know, some cool diagonal shapes on its own layer. Something like that. And now I want to take this rock-looking, shape, and I can select, for example, with this one, this tool called Magic Wand, I think. And then I go to Paths, create new path, and if I just click like that, you can see that it just created a path here, but it's kind of jaggedy right here, and I don't really want that. It's too like the resolution is too high. So I just remove that again, and I press Alt, and then I press this, and I up the tolerance with about 2 maybe. Now it's way better. I don't see any jaggedy edges and stuff. Like this should be quite straight. But sometimes you do want a low tolerance, so you can just play around with that setting. And then after that I go up to Edit, and then Define Custom Shape. Hit OK. And then I go back to Layers. I can press Delete, and it just deleted that path. And now I can go into Custom Shapes, and it should be down here. So there we go. Now I can start painting with this shape again. Whoops. So yeah, that's the basis of how you can create custom shapes. And if we do the same thing with a photo, so I have a photo here of a Toyota engine. I found it off Google, and I'm allowed to use it. You can basically let's hit Command U or Control U, and then take down the saturation. And now I can just take the lasso tool and then right click and press color range. So if I press like this color, this is completely black, this range, it will select pretty much everything that's black and then a little bit around it. If I have like the fuzziness set up, if I have zero fuzziness, it will only take these values. But I like to increase the fuzziness, so let's actually just use, for example, this part here. I think this looks pretty cool. We can layer via cut, take away that one, and then I can delete some of these, or erase, I mean, some of this, just to not make it completely square. like that. Should work. And now I do the same thing. I go to color range, and then I select this with a bit of fuzziness. I hit OK, and now it's selected that thing. I can go to paths, and now I actually want a lot of resolution. So I can go to this Alt and press that, and I use 1 again, and it just created a path. Now if I go up to Image, Define Custom Shape, it's going to be this techie looking custom shape right here. Can I show this? It's going to be down there. So I think that it didn't really come out that good. We can try to make the make the path again with even lower resolution, like 0.7 maybe. See how that looks. Or maybe my selection wasn't that good. Let's try a different selection. Not sure this will look too good, but I can try it again. Define custom shape. It's all about experimenting. Yeah, I think this looks better. Has more more thickness to it, more weight. Now I can even create like a grungy looking landscape with this. super quick. Switch to regular brush. Yeah, anyway, that's basically how you can create your own custom shapes, and how you can use them in your paintings, I guess. So now I'm gonna be looking at a painting process that I did before this tutorial, where I'm basically going from the beginning to the end with the painting. All right, so I start with canvas about 2000 by 1000 pixels. Doesn't really matter too much. And just do a quick color balance, make it a little bit blue. I want to do some sort of waterfall, like, I don't know, a bit brighter scene. So I start with some brushes first, just creating a little bit of, something. So it's not just completely white. With a little bit of color, I just color pick. And now I just start to, pick out some custom shapes with a little bit of different values. So I do a new layer and I create this, and then I block transparent pixels, and I use some custom brushes to create some textures inside of that that initial custom shape. And I create a new layer with 100% opacity, some sort of mountain or rock in the background, just to create some sort of, big feel. And I think it's important to have a few layers here because it really allows you to work quickly and create some depth in your paintings. Like I usually like to think of it as foreground, middle ground, and then background. And this thing will be the background, the background sort of mountain there, and then I have the foreground or middle ground mountain in the foreground area. So now I'm creating some more custom shapes here, just filling in more in that foreground thing. Just playing around with a few different shapes. I'm just taking away with the regular eraser. So it's good to create a bunch of different tools, or like use different tools. You don't have to always use just custom brushes or custom shapes. Did a new layer here, some waterfall, playing around with a few brushes. Made the waterfall a little bit brighter than the sky to make it pop out a little bit more. And just playing around here, because now is the time where you can just experiment and try a bunch of different ideas that you have. And I always look up there in the navigator, super important. So I thought I'd make a little bit of a, like where the water comes out there. Here I'm using the smudge tool with a texture brush. I think that adds a little bit more of cinematic effect. Actually, a lot more. Looks way better. I really love this tool for creating some motion and some fluidity. Now I wanted to add some sky, and I actually end up using a photo here just to speed things up, make it look good. I just put it right in there and instantly looks really good. So I just up the lightness a bit and desaturate it, and I think it works perfectly here. I merged these two together, so I just have a background there with the sky, and then the mountain there is in front of the sky. And I'm just trying out some different shapes, to make it look a little bit more interesting. But I decided to not do that. Could work though. And the same thing here, I have locked transparent pixels, and I can just use a few brushes here. But I decided to use more custom shapes. And I can change the mode as well, so make it like linear dodge or overlay or something like that to create some interesting color differences. Maybe add like some lichen type moss growing on the stones. Tried multiply, I think that works pretty good. And I always have this lock transparent pixels because otherwise it will paint outside and I don't want that. And I'm flipping the screen a lot to check the composition and check for any errors, and it just helps refresh the eye when I do that. Just add a new layer here to make some sort of like road or something that looks like it could lead somewhere, or you could walk there. And it also gives perspective like this. If you do like what's that called? Like converging point there. Just adding some more lighting here, selecting what I don't want, or sorry, selecting what I want to make lighter. And I merged them together later, these layers. And don't be afraid to use even more layers, but don't overdo it, because then it's gonna be hard to find your way around your project. So here I'm using one of the horses that I got earlier. I created this one. Just checking out where I can put him or her. So it's on its own layer. I thought maybe I could have like 2 horses, or maybe a different horse, or so I decided to go with that one. And here I'm actually cutting out this foreground, middle ground element and creating its own foreground element. So it looks like it's on a ledge. And then the layer under there would be some part under it, basically. That kind of works a lot when you use any type of hero thing, like when he or she is standing on a ledge and looking out on this beautiful landscape. Thought I'd have a few more riders here, but yeah, I think I kind of like the solitude feel with just one. I'm gonna come back to this horse and add in a rider there to give it some interest. Like, why would a horse be running up there? I don't know. Just adding some more texture here, some more colors. And this is all on the foreground layer here, so I'm always keeping, keeping in check everything, so I don't have like way too many layers. Because it's different when you're using, when you're doing concept art or illustrations like this, because the clients they don't really care too much about, like you should just start creating the landscape first, and then later on you can start changing things, like specific things. But you want to be quick and you want to be effective, so you shouldn't have like 100 layers before you even get to some point where it even matters to have layers, like when you're trying different designs or something like that. So like it's just important to have like a few layers for some specific things, like the horse, maybe the waterfall is one, maybe, and then you have like foreground, middle ground, and then background, and that's it. Here I do another layer for an extra piece there, a rock. I started with a custom shape, and then I painted under that layer with some base color. Just adding on some vegetation on that rock. And these brushes are all available in the Evenant brush pack. And it's nice to have some sort of color harmony in the entire picture. You notice that I don't have anything sticking out too much, and If I did, that would attract the eye a lot. And you can see later that I'm actually adding some more red and purple to where the horse is. And also a rainbow. That really attracts the eye. Just copy pasting, free transforming, playing Photoshop Warrior. You know, you can do all of this with just brushes, like one brush. But I kind of like to work like this, you know, a lot of different techniques, and it's really fun. Some people say that it's not really painting when you're using all these techniques, but that's just like them being jealous that they can't do this, you know. Just stick to what you feel, how you can be creative the most, and don't worry too much about what other people are saying. Because in the end, people don't really care too much about how you did something. It's just the end result. So now I'm going in here on the horse and I'm just adding a rider. Just a silhouette first. It makes it a lot easier for me later to paint in. And the silhouette is really important when it comes to these type of things. Just trying out some different positions of the hooves and the legs. Horses are kind of difficult, I think, because I haven't had that much practice painting them. That's why I have these shapes to help me out. And the more I use these shapes and the more I paint horses, the more I learn how to paint them without even having to use the shapes. So shapes also really help you learn how to paint them without using them in the end. I think the same goes for photos. When you're using photos, you learn a lot of things. Just adding some sort of banner or staff or something. I want to add some interest here. Maybe this guy is on his way to some kingdom and he's up in the mountains and he's just admiring this view. So I'm jumping here and there on the image. I never just stay stagnant on one part of the painting, because that makes it like I don't know. It's kind of boring just to stick on one side, one part. So here you see I add some more red, some more brown, and that really attracts the eye, because those colors are also kind of harmonious with what I have around. Red and blue and the sort of yellow thing, they're really complementary colors. They're pretty close to each other, closer at least than the real complementary colors. I just noticed that you guys can't see the brush marker sometimes, which is kind of weird. I'm gonna have to check that out. Just adding a few layers between these different ones so I can add some separation. And this is where layers really come in handy, because you have so much more functionality and control. Just adding some sort of like purple, Tyrian purple thing. Like a cape, and then yeah, just painting it out, rendering it out a little bit more. Even if it's tiny, you can't really see all this detail later, but if you just suggest some stuff, it'll look much better than just having a silhouette with a little bit of color. It's good to just go in here, and because this is a pretty important focal point in this picture. Just change out some colors, add some more yellow or orange. Try to make him blonde, but that didn't really work. Setting some more color on the horse. I decided to not do too much overlay, just normal. You have so much control with just normal, you know, normal mode. And I think that's good enough for now. And he stands out really nicely with this waterfall in the background. Just added some interesting helmet here, maybe like a Roman inspired thing, or Trojan. So if you guys have any suggestions on what you want to see, just let me know in the comments below. That really helps me figure out what you want to see more of. I'm currently creating this concept art course, which is going to be really in-depth and a pretty long one. I'm going to go through pretty much everything I know when it comes to painting and illustrating and concept art in the field, like how to get work in that, and how clients think and how they like to work with you, and then a bunch of different techniques and a bunch of stuff. So I have a course coming up on that. But in the meantime, I'm just trying to give you some pretty cool tips and tricks along the way, so you can just instantly start painting on your own, getting some ideas. So this painting is really taking shape now. I decided to try some different clouds here, just copy paste. I think that could be a really good one, but I decided to back that off a lot later. It looks really dramatic when it sort of comes out like that. But yeah, I thought it didn't really work too well. Trying to add some more light here. So here I'm just backing off with everything. So I decided to keep a little bit more, and then I just merged it with the one under there. So here I'm trying to add some some highlights, because I thought the sun could shine in there, add some more interesting dramatic lighting effect. I think that's a really important aspect for my paintings, at least, to really play around with light a lot. Just trying around with a lot of transparent pixels and just painting on the layers. And then sometimes I use its own layer, where I just like make it linear dodge or overlay, some of the soft light. Just what works for the moment. I think that looks pretty cool. Pretty realistic. So I'm just going back and forth between these custom shapes and custom brushes. In most of my videos before, you haven't seen me use custom brushes. But yeah, it's a good technique to use. Sometimes I just switch it up. Just add some more interest here. always thinking where the light is coming from, how it hits the plateaus of the rocks. It really helps sell the whole idea when you have the lighting figured out correctly. And you see what I did there? Like right now I'm just painting softly on the edge with the color that's outside of it. And that really helps sort of blend in the shape there, so it doesn't look too like cut in or too digital. I'm just using custom shapes for the trees here, adding some trees. Tons of ways you can use custom shapes, like brushes, but have a little bit more control, I think, when you're playing around like this. And then don't forget to have pixels up there and not vector or not path, because otherwise you're gonna get like 100 paths everywhere. So now I'm gonna make a rainbow. I just got this idea. I have no idea if it would work, but it did work. Just changing up the colors and then doing outside and center. Important to remember your color theory here. Just making it a bit smaller here, this selection. And it actually did work pretty well. Using screen. And there's a rainbow. You can try that out yourself. But yeah, don't overdo it. Because there's a waterfall there, so it makes sense if there's a rainbow. Just trying to make everything make sense, trying to make so things make sense with lighting. Lighting it up a little bit here, because it's hazy, right? So it has to sort of shine up the mists and the particles, the water particles. Making that mountain look a little bit more hit by the light as well. But not all of it, just a part of it. Most of it is hidden under clouds. And I'm still using these shapes. It's really useful. Just adding some more blue to the shadows. And this painting is kind of coming to its end here. I'm just figuring out lighting and and positioning and all that. But if you look up there in the navigator, it looks pretty much done. Only thing that's left is just some small fixes here and there. Yeah, just lighting it up a little bit more here. So yeah, as I said before, I have been really busy lately, creating a bunch of album cover artworks and illustrations for people, some product illustrations, and I'm also the co-founder of Evenant, so doing a lot with that as well. I have a course there with music, and yeah, it's a bunch of stuff. So I'm really trying to have time to do these free tutorials for you guys. But I'm glad that a lot of you guys are really enjoying this content. It's really fun for me to hear that you really get something out of this. Just changing up the banner here, making it wave in the wind. Changing the color a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more purple, like his cape. I have a thing for purple. I should try making a painting looking pretty much only purple. Haven't done that yet. Just trying to make that part a little bit more pronounced, I guess. A little bit more textured. And I think that did it. Same thing here, make a little bit more path, or yeah, like it's traversable. Here I'm just adding some grass. You can see how I do that in the painting grass and vegetation tutorial on this channel. I really like these brushes. They're great for any sort of vegetation, especially grass. So yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm feeling it's pretty much done. Just the last few things, like I did before, just softening out the edges a little bit more with some color that's outside of it. Makes it look like it blends in way better than if it's just purely lasso type or custom shape type cut. You can see that it really blends in way better. Just darkening up some things, making it a little bit more dramatic in lighting. You shouldn't overdo this when you try this out. But it helps to have the entire value range, like all the way from the very, very dark to the very, very bright. That gives your painting a lot of interest. And of course, everything in between. Just adding some more clouds. Make it a little bit more atmospheric. Again, not too much. I tend to overdo this. Here I did an adjustment layer, color balance, just some final touches, warming it up a little bit more, changing the tone of the highlights, mids, and the shadows, and actually just dial it back a little bit more, like 60%. So yeah, guys, this is the final painting right here. I added some birds, of course, and yeah, I'm happy with this result. And custom shapes are really cool. It's really cool technique you can use for doing this sort of thing with concept art and illustration. You can create a lot of cool textures and thumbnails and all kinds of cool stuff. So I hope you learned something nice with this. Let me know in the comments section below what you thought about it, or anything that you'd like to learn in the future. And also join the Facebook group that we have, the Evenant Design Facebook group. And you can share your own paintings there and ask questions and all kinds of cool jazz. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.